All right, so let's dive into the actual structure of this content, right? And the structure of my approach of launching new businesses. The order is important, so I've ranged the different topics in order of their not importance, but it's a sequence. So number one, we'll start with the audience, right? Before you build anything, before you even think about building anything for anyone, you should really know who you're building it for, right? And knowing the audience means you understand what those people are, you know their persona, you understand kind of what they are interested in, how they spend their time, what sort of problems they face, right? So you really have to be, obviously you have to talk to them a lot. You have to know kind of what's in their head, right, essentially. That's even before you nail down the kind of the pains that they might have. Section number two is everything about the market. So once you know who you're building for, then you can kind of look around and see what's actually out there in the market. Are there any competitors to potentially something that you're going to be building, right? Are there any alternatives that people have? Sometimes people may be used to doing something, but there's just not a good alternative, and they just keep, their habit is your competitor, and it's actually really hard to break habits and try to re-educate people. Yeah, and we also kind of spend some time around, well, is this market actually even worth it, right? Is it big enough? Even though you have to start small, right, and cater to a particular niche, you kind of want to see if longer term you'll actually be able to scale into a bigger market. Number three would be everything about the product, right? So we need to know exactly what we're building, right? So you understand who you're building it for, you kind of understand their pain. Now you need to know how you're going to solve it, right? And why your particular approach is going to be good for them. So this is really where we focused on how we're solving this problem, right? Section number four is everything about the launch. And this includes getting the first customers, talking to the first customers, how to structure the offer, how to convert them, right? What metrics to look for, what does success look like when getting the first customers. Section number five is monetization. So I specifically put monetization after the launch because it's really, number one, it's kind of hard to come up with the right pricing before you launch something, before you know the value that you're going to give to the customers. But another thing why monetization comes after the launch is because it's relatively easy to experiment with different monetization techniques with different pricing, right? What I say it's easy is because whenever you change the pricing, you're going to see the results immediately, right? People are either going to buy or they're not going to buy. If you increase the price, people are either going to continue buying or they'll stop buying, right? So you'll see results from any pricing experiments right away, and that makes it kind of easy to try different things, and that only comes after you know that people actually value your product. But it's important to pick the right model so that you're able to be profitable and scalable and still provide good enough value or even the wow value to your customers. Section number 6 is about traction, right? So, all right, great, you've launched, you've figured out the pricing maybe, so what do we do now? Like, how do we keep growing? What are we tracking, right? Accountability is a big focus of the program, and that's where we're going to talk about what are we measuring, right? What do we know about the customers? Do we know how much it costs us to acquire a customer? Do we know how much this customer generates for us? What are we tracking? How do we track engagement? How do we track retention? Do we need to worry about churn, right? All that stuff, basically, how do we understand what we're doing? How do we understand what's working and what's not? That comes in the traction section. Section number 7 is growth. Really, I think in the world, in nature, what doesn't grow actually fades away, right, and dies eventually. In business, I think the same rule applies. If your business is not growing, well, you're most likely destined for failure, right? So we have to constantly keep looking for new ways to grow. Grow our customer, grow the number of customers, right? Grow the average value that the customer brings into us. Grow the number of offerings that we provide. Grow our margins, right? We have to be in a constant growth mode, and that's an important phase. Once you've kind of built the product and launched it, then you have to really start growing. So that's going to be the section on growth.